This video is about traveling, both in the United States and internationally. I started traveling as a young child. My father was a dentist, and every summer he would take 4 to 6 weeks off. And we had an 18-foot Mallard trailer, and our family of 6 would go traveling, mostly in western United States. My grandparents, my father's father, he was a chemistry teacher, and they would rent their house out every summer, and they took their trailer and went out west. So my father grew up traveling, and that's where I got the interest in that. When I was when I was like freshman in high school, our whole family toured through Europe, and that was my first international experience here. So traveling was my blood from early childhood. My graduation present from my parents from university was a trip to Israel. So I got to travel over there. When I got married, my wife and our 3 boys, we went on some church mission trips to Mexico, and then within the United States to West Virginia. All 3 of our boys we sent on summer missions trips. That was a big experience for them. My first big trip alone was joining the Marine Corps in 1970, and I joined for 3 years. I went to San Diego, California, to the North Island Naval Base. That's where I was stationed the first time. I was on a ship, the USS Providence, CLG-6, which was a light guided missile cruiser, and it was docked there. In 1972, our ship was sent to Vietnam in 48 hours to do coastal bombardment from the DMZ, demilitarized zone in Vietnam, all the way up to Haiphong Harbor. And we did that till all the way through, December of 1972, just at the very end of the war. Probably the biggest experience there, we did a raid into Haiphong Harbor. It was called the Lion's Den, and you can look that up on Google, on YouTube. So that was traveling there. We got married in California and eventually moved back to Tennessee, basically Chattanooga, Tennessee, with our 3 boys. And I was teaching at a high school, Howard High School. And one Sunday, a representative from a Christian organization spoke at our church about teaching overseas, teaching English in China. And when she said that, I was amazed. My heart just started beating. Like it did the day I became a Christian. I said, man, I would really like to do that. But I have a full-time job. I have a wife and 3 small boys, 2, 4, and 6. So to be able to get up and go to China, that just pretty much seemed impossible. Immediately after church, I remember very, very clearly, we were in the kitchen. I was leaning against the sink. My wife was directly across from me. I asked her, would you be interested in going to China for a year to teach English? And she said yes. That really threw me. And so we began planning on that. So I took a 1-year leave from my school system. We were assigned to the city of Yantai. It was a small coastal city of 1 million people in the Shandong Peninsula. It took 10 hours by train to get from Beijing. It was kind of southeast of Beijing. I taught at Yantai Teachers College in the Foreign Language Department, teaching senior Chinese students who would become English teachers in their provinces. Actually, we stayed for a 2nd year. So I left in August 1989, and we went to June 1991. As it turned out, we were to leave to China the first week of August in 1989, and in June 4th, they had the Tiananmen Square massacre. And so China was basically in revolution, and we were very uncertain if we would even be able to leave. But eventually we were able to do that. So we went to training in California and left directly from California to go to China. Um, we returned to the United States. I continued teaching in high school and middle school. I'm retired now, and but I still like to substitute teach for, once a week if they have need of that. One of the great things of traveling, and I constantly told my students this, is how different the world is. The United States is not like what the rest of the world is. I would tell my students, your school is so beautiful, so clean, unlike all the other countries. I've taught in 8 countries, and I really go to developing countries where the education system is not the best. I taught at universities primarily, and for the students, it's like anybody, it's hard to imagine the rest of the world. You can see it on TV or YouTube, but going to a foreign country is very, very different. I think probably the best education any kid in America could have is to live in a third world developing country for 6 months. I think that would be the best education ever. So in my times of traveling, 2 times I taught in face-to-face in Cambodia, the capital city, Phnom Penh, teaching either English, one time with the United States Army, teaching soldiers and officers English, and one time at universities. Taught in Togo, West Africa. I taught in Indonesia, the South Pacific, in Kurdistan, in Iraq, in the Middle East. I taught in Tunisia, North Africa, in Honduras, Central Africa. This spring I'm going to Kenya in East Africa to teach. India is the country I'd really like to teach in next. I really prefer to go very poorer places in the most extreme situations. I'm kind of an all or nothing kind of person. Sometime what I'm doing now that I'm retired is teaching business, entrepreneurship to Christians trying to start their own businesses in their countries. One of my big, takeaway lessons, having taught in these 8 countries, is how much people are the same. They want to fall in love, get married, have children. They want to have healthy children. They want to live in a safe environment. They want their kids to grow up and be, meaningful citizens. So all of my students in every one of these countries, I would have been happy to have them as my neighbors. It was the most wonderful experience. My students have always been so kind and so loving. I really love teaching overseas because I just feel so intensely alive. Everything is different. The language, the music, the shopping, the transportation, the living conditions, the schools, everything is different. And I just feel intensely alive. But the best thing about traveling overseas is being able to come home to your wife, to your home, to your town, to see your family. That's what's so wonderful about it. I think as a Christian, I have the spiritual gift of teaching. I'm passionately in love with teaching. And I love traveling, so I'm able to put those 2 things together by teaching overseas. I'm reminded of the New Testament verse in the Gospel of John, chapter 10, verse 10, that says, "The thief comes only to steal and to kill and to destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full," or some translations say, to have it intensely. And that's one of the things traveling does, is I'm able to live so intensely. Now, that is also a reason why I'm a voracious reader, because if I cannot physically travel overseas, I can virtually travel by reading. Any place, any time, past or future. I can meet any character. I can be in any situation, be it war, going into space, anything. So in a sense, I travel all the time, if not in reality, virtually by reading. My father was a teacher. He was a dentist for 25 years, and then He retired and taught at the University of Illinois at the College of Dentistry, and he did that for 25 years, and he loved teaching. Now, yes, traveling to third world developing countries has an element of risk. I have 3 times I've been sick, pretty sick. I've been in 3 revolutions, both in Iraq and in Lebanon and in China during those tumultuous times. But I've always gone with a Christian organization, so I never went by myself teaching. I was with a team of teachers. My youngest, well, I had 3 sons. My youngest one has spent 4 years in the United States Air Force. He was a loadmaster on a C-17 cargo jet, and he flew all over the world. He did 400 combat missions in and out of Iraq and Afghanistan, lots of traveling. Tyler, my middle son, he went to Tibet, Tanzania on mission trip, and then Afghanistan. He went there as an engineer. Jason, my oldest son, he lives in Mexico, and he's traveled throughout Central America and into South America. So all of my sons, my wife she's a homebody, and she would prefer to stay home and enjoy life there. So I'm grateful to God for having given me these opportunities, because it's really a life-changing thing. I'm 71 now, and I'm hoping still to be able to travel overseas. I teach online. I teach to Pakistan online. I teach to Togo, East Africa online. I teach to Kenya online. And so again, in a sense, virtually online, I can do that just from my home. But I love traveling. I love reading. I love different experiences. I love my home. I love my town. I love my country. But in a sense, I love all of those even more, because I don't think you can fully appreciate all the blessings you have in your own country and home and family until you leave it and see how so many hundreds of millions of people live in very difficult and dangerous situations. And I'm blessed. Basically, I live in a paradise here in my town in America. And so I'm very grateful to God for all of that.